Hey guys, Omaha here. Today I have an open hand monk build for you guys for honor mode, and it's probably one of the most overpowered builds in the entire game. You'll be able to 1, deal between 300 to 500 damage per turn reliably. 2, with an armor class of around 22, combined with some of the passive bonuses you'll get from this build, be incredibly hard to kill and reliably be able to out-tank the entire game. 3, have one of the highest mobilities out of all the builds in the game. And 4, have a high enough dexterity to be able to perform most of the dexterity actions for your party, like stealing and pickpocketing. Okay, the end goal for this build is to go 8 in open hand monk and 4 in rogue thief, which will set us up nicely for some insane burst damage, which is what this build is going to excel at. Now, if you need AoE damage, like you don't have a spellcaster that does really high AoE damage, in most cases they will do more AoE damage than this build. If you don't have that for some reason, you can go 9 open hand monk and 3 thief, and that'll get you your key resonance ability, and that does some really respectable AoE damage, just not as much as you could possibly get from some other classes. So you can fill either role with this, preferably the single target damage. Okay, first I'm going to go over the origin or race that you should pick for this build, and it's really simple. There's not much to it. If you know the storyline of Astarion and you know kind of what I'm hinting at and you want to min-max this build, that's the way to do it, through his storyline. If you don't know the storyline and you already have an idea of what you want to be, good or bad, for your storyline, I would recommend either finding out what his storyline is beforehand if you want to min-max, or just rolling another character. You don't really need to do this. This is just if you want to squeeze out some extra damage. Other than that, I would say Dark Urge for the cloak, but again, that's not needed. And for race, really you can go any race with this build. It's extremely powerful no matter what you choose, but I'm slightly partial towards the wood half elf and the wood elf, just because you get the extra movement, and that's what benefits this character the most. So we'll start out with a monk, and that'll get you weapon proficiencies in simple weapons and short swords. You'll also get Flurry of Blows, which punches twice in quick succession, and that'll use a bonus action and a key point. Then you have your key points, which is the resource you use for Flurry of Blows, as well as some other abilities later on. You'll have Unarmored Defense. That'll add your Wisdom modifier to your armor class when you're not wearing any armor. Dexterous attacks. Whenever you attack with a monk weapon or unarmed attack, it'll scale with your dexterity instead of your strength if your dexterity is higher. And with this build, we're going to be running elixirs of strength anytime we can. So your strength will pretty much always be higher than your dexterity. So there's also martial arts death strikes. Attacks with your monk's weapons or unarmed attacks will deal 1 to 4 bludgeoning damage unless the normal damage is higher. That's just a baseline for your damage. And then bonus unarmed strike. So when you attack with a monk weapon or while unarmed, you can make another unarmed attack as a bonus action. Okay, we're going to move on to our abilities. So these are the ability points we're going to be using until level 7, where we're going to do a respec. Because when we respec, we want to open up with rogue instead, because we want the expertises and the 4 proficiencies that's going to provide. But until then, you'll want to open up with monk. And for our ability points, you're going to want to dump strength, because we're going to be using the elixirs of strength the whole time. So you really don't need to put any points in that. If for some reason you don't want to do elixirs, you could put 17 points in strength now, and then, I don't know, you could put some more into dexterity. It really just depends. But for this build, I'm not even going to focus on that. You're going to dump strength. You're going to want to go into 16 dexterity by putting 15 plus 1. And then constitution, you're going to want to get to 17. And the reason we're doing that is because you're so squishy in the beginning of the game. You need survivability until you get to level 7. So this is just a temporary thing for now. You'll go to 17 here, and then we're going to add another one with Tavern Brawler, which will get you to 18. That'll help you survive. The other 3 don't matter too much right now up until level 7. That's where wisdom will really kick in, is level 7 or 6, I think. Yeah. So you can put it at 14 for now, and then intelligence or charisma, whichever one. I just go intelligence to help with intelligence saving throws, because I don't care about charisma on this class. So that's what mine looks like. And then skill proficiencies. If you're going to be using this class for your dexterity based stuff like lockpicking and stealth and all that, I would select sleight of hand and stealth. I already have the urchin background, so those are already selected for me. And in that case, I'm going to select acrobatics, which will help me resist being shoved, and I already have a high dexterity, so that works really well. And then you could choose insight if you want, which will help you read people in situations, detect lies, but you can offset the athletics here too and get it to +1 from -1. And that's based off strength, which will be boosted from your elixirs anyway. So that's a good one to put it in. As far as leveling goes for this build, it's pretty simple. You're just going to stick with open hand monk up until level 7. And then at that point, we'll respec. But level 2 monk, we'll see you get another key point. That's like 3 key points total. You'll get unarmored movement, so your movement speed will increase by 10 feet when you're not wearing armor or using a shield. Patient defense, so attack rolls against you will have disadvantage, and you'll have advantage on dexterity saving throws. And that'll use a bonus action and a key point. Patient defense is going to be a really good tool, especially in the beginning of the game, like Act 1 and 2, until you get some of the better gear. And then you have Step of the Wind dash, which will double your movement speed. It's basically dash, but uses a bonus action and a key point. Also, jumping no longer requires a bonus action. And then Step of the Wind disengage. It's basically disengaging, but jumping won't require a bonus action either. And then that uses a bonus action, a key point. Okay, level 3, this is where you're going to choose the subclass. Choose Way of the Open Hand. That's definitely the best one to choose. This is going to grant you Flurry of Blows, Topple, stagger, and push. All different variants of your flurry of blows uses the same amount of key points. So Topple is going to possibly knock the target prone, which will give you advantage on attacks against them. Then you'll have stagger, which will let you stagger the target, making it unable to take reactions. And then push, which will let you push a target 17 feet away. You also get another key point, which is typical. And then you'll get deflect missiles, which is actually extremely good. But late game, I would focus on using it on abilities or attacks that you know are really strong. Like if you can predict a really strong attack coming, use it for that, because it does use a key point to deflect the missile back. You can use your reaction to reduce the damage from a ranged weapon attack by 1d10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your monk level. If the damage is reduced to 0, you use a key point to deflect the missile back. All right, level 4. You'll get another key point. You'll get slow fall, so that'll let you use a reaction to get resistance to falling damage, which will just make you take half damage from falling damage. And then you'll get your feet, and you're definitely going to want to choose Tavern Brawler for this. When you make an unarmed attack, use your improvised weapon or throw something, your strength modifier is going to be added twice to the damage and attack rolls. So that's going to give you more damage, and it's going to have a higher chance of hitting. And with the Elixir of Hill Giant Strength, that'll give you 21 strength. So that's going to give you like 10 extra damage per punch. So that adds up really quickly. And then this is where you're going to want to select another point in Constitution, bringing it to 18, which will give you a little more HP. And keep in mind that 10 extra damage per punch is going to apply twice because your Flurry of Blows punches twice. So that's 20 extra damage every time you use Flurry of Blows. If you use the Elixir of Cloud Giant Strength, that's 27 strength. That'll give you 16 damage extra on each punch. All right, here at level 5, you get another key point. This is where you're going to get an extra attack. Now you'll get 2 attacks per action. And then you'll get the action Stunning Strike Melee, which will possibly stun the target for 1 turn. And when the stun, they can't move or take actions, bonus actions, or reactions. That'll use a key point in an action. And then there's Stunning Strike Unarmed, which will possibly stun the target as well. It's just the unarmed version of Stunning Strike. So both of those are pretty good. All right, level 6 is where you're really going to come online. So you'll get the key point again. You'll get improved unarmored movement. So your movement speed will increase by 15 feet when not wearing armor or using a shield. Key powered strikes. Your unarmed strikes count as magical for the purpose of overcoming enemies' resistances and immunity to non-magical damage. And then you'll get the 3 subclass features: Manifestation of Body, Mind, and Soul. So you can basically add necrotic, psychic, or radiant damage to your Flurry of Blows or your unarmed attacks. Now you're only going to be able to have one of these active at a time, so you can basically freely switch between the 3 of them depending on the situation. Like Act 2, Manifestation of Soul is incredible. So for Manifestation of Body, Mind, and Soul, the damage is calculated 1d4 plus your Wisdom modifier. So right now I have a Wisdom of 22, which gives me +6 to Wisdom checks, and that will give me 7 to 10 extra damage on any of those manifestation passives. And keep in mind that's per punch, so it's really like 14 to 20 extra damage per use of Flurry of Blows. And then you'll get Wholeness of Body. So how this is going to work, it's going to heal you for 3 times your monk level in HP. So at level 6, 3 times 6, 18. Regain half of your key points, and you enter a state of wholeness where you regain key points and have an extra bonus action. So for 3 turns, you're going to get another key point every turn, and you'll have an extra bonus action for those 3 turns. So this is really good for bursting down enemies and keeping your key points up. Once you get to level 7, you're going to want to respec. So just accept that. You go to Withers and Respec, and you're going to want to go into Rogue. And the reason we're going back into Rogue, like I said before, is because you get all these bonuses to your skills, and you get the expertises as well. Now, kind of like before, you'll want to go and probably get Sleight of Hand and Stealth because you're going to be providing that role for your party most likely. But like I said before, if you already have those, you can add Acrobatics and Athletics again. And you'll actually have 2 more you can use on whatever you want, really. It doesn't matter all that much with this. And then your expertises, I would put those into Sleight of Hand and Stealth as well. And what that's going to do is going to double the bonus you get from your proficiency. So your ability points are going to be different this time around. You're not going to need the Constitution as much as you did before. You're going to need the Wisdom because that's going to be probably your most important stat now at this point. Dump the Strength, dump Intelligence, and dump Charisma. And you'll want to go 17 Dexterity, use the +2 to get there. 15 Constitution, because we're going to get that back up to 16 again with Tavern Brawler anyway. And then Wisdom at 16 by using the +1 to get there. And then with the Rogue, you get the Sneak Attacks, and you'll actually get more proficiencies with this as well. Proficiencies in light armor, simple weapons, hand crossbows, long swords, rapiers, and short swords. But you're using your Flurry of Blows mostly anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. So as far as leveling goes, you're going to want to take the same general structure as you did before. Your first level's in Rogue from the Respec, and then you'll want to get back to level 6 Monk. So add Monk, and just keep going until you hit level 7. Then at level 3, Monk, don't forget to choose your subclass as the Way of the Open Hand. Level 4, make sure you choose Tavern Brawler again, and then buff your Constitution up to 16. And then once you hit level 6 Monk, you're back to where you were before, except you have a level in Rogue now. Then at level 8, you'll go back into Rogue. So you'll want to be level 6 Monk, and then the next levels, you'll want to go into Rogue. So you'll go Rogue level 2, which will give you Cunning Action Hide, Cunning Action Dash, and Cunning Action Disengage. You don't need the Dash or Disengage because you already have the better versions from the Monk. but the hide can be kind of nice, I guess, if you're trying to go stealthy. It'll let you hide with a bonus action. And then at rogue level 3, you're going to want to go subclass thief, which will give you an extra bonus action, which will let you use flurry of blows again, just the main point of going thief. And then it'll get second story work. So you've mastered the art of falling and regain resistance to falling damage. Now you'll always just take half damage from falling. Level 10, you want to do one more level in rogue. That'll bring you to level 4 rogue, and that'll get you another feat. And here for your feat, you're going to want to choose ability improvement, and you'll want to get your dexterity up to 18, and then your wisdom up to 17. Now, if you didn't use the hag's hair on any of your other companions or party members, then putting it into wisdom with this character is a good option. So you could always do that and have it at 18 now. And if you didn't do that, I would still put it into 17 because we're going to buff it again later. Okay, after level 4 rogue, you're going to want to put the rest of your levels into monk. Level 7 monk's going to give you another key point. It's going to give you evasion, which is extremely useful. And it's part of the reason we put a lot of points into dexterity. So your agility will let you dodge out of the way of certain spells. When a spell or effect would deal half damage on a successful dexterity saving throw, it deals no damage if you succeed and only half damage if you fail. So most AoE spells in this game are dexterity based. They're going to roll a dexterity saving throw. And normally if you pass the saving throw, you take half damage. And if you fail, you take full damage. Now, if you pass the saving throw, you take 0 damage. And if you fail, you take half. So at most, you're taking half damage from AoE spells. So this is amazing. And you'll also get stillness of mind. So if you're charmed or frightened, you automatically cast stillness of mind to remove the condition. And then finally, for our final level, the last level in monk, you're going to get another key point, which is your final one. And then you'll choose another feat and you'll go back and do ability improvement again. And with this, you'll just want to put both into wisdom. So if you have the hag's hair, you'll be at 20. And really, there's no point in putting your second point in anything else. It doesn't really matter because it's not going to buff you anyway. So you might as well just put it in wisdom. Another source you can use to get more wisdom points is the Mirror of Loss in Act 3. So you can use that for a +2 and use that on your wisdom, which will bring it up to 22 if you use the hag hair to get it to 20, or 21 if you didn't use the hag hair. Either way, you're still getting up to 20, which is going to help you get more damage out of it, as well as increasing your armor class from your unarmored defense. So at level 12, if you follow everything perfectly and you get everything you can possibly get as far as gear and everything, your stat line should look like this: 8 strength, 18 dexterity, 16 constitution, 8 intelligence, 22 wisdom, and 8 charisma. And then you can pop the Elixir of Cloud Giant Strength or the Hill Giant Strength Potion, which will buff you up to 21 or 27 strength until your next long rest. All right, for the next section, we're going to be talking about the Tadpole Powers. So spoiler warning, if you haven't completed the story or progressed into Act 3 at all, this is your warning now. Okay, so for Tadpole Powers, there's really a lot you can do, but some of the ones that I recommend the most are going to be Psionic Overload. So that's going to give you an additional 1 to 4 psychic damage, but you'll take 1 to 4 psychic damage every turn. That'll last for 10 turns. Stage Fright can be good because your armor class is going to be pretty high, around the 22-ish range with all of your gear and everything maxed out. So they'll be missing a lot already and they're going to have a disadvantage. So they're going to take 2 to 12 psychic damage every time they miss for 3 turns. If you're not in honor mode, Hairless Stakes is great because it will cause whoever you target to take double damage from all sources, but they'll be able to heal every time they attack, but you're going to be out damaging that by a significant margin. So that doesn't matter. Honor mode, it doesn't work like that, but that'll last 3 turns. Displace can be really good if you're using Flurry of Blows push a decent amount. When you cause falling damage on a creature, they will take 1 to 8 psychic damage on top of the normal falling damage. And that's just a passive feature that's always active unless you toggle it off. Kind of going out of order here, but Favorable Beginnings is a passive that's always good pretty much in every class. Your first attack roll or ability check you make against any target gets a bonus equal to your proficiency bonus. There's no downsides to that. Every time you attack any creature for the first time, you're going to get that bonus. Luck of the Fall Realms, also good on pretty much every class. Once per long rest, you can change a successful attack roll into a critical hit. Nice if you need the extra damage to finish somebody off. Hold the Weak is excellent for burst damage. When you bring it down to fewer hit points than your number of evolved Illithid powers, it dies and all nearby creatures take 1 to 4 psychic damage. So the more powers you invest into this, the more powerful this will become. So with the amount of powers I have here, like 19 or 20, basically if they reach under 19 or 20 damage or HP, they just instantly die and all nearby creatures will take 1 to 4 psychic damage. Pretty strong. Obviously, Fly is a good one. You can already get that if you take the Astral Tadpole. That'll help you get around easier. Mind Sanctuary is great because it lets you interchange actions and bonus actions. So you can use your Flurry of Blows as an action, or you can use your Stunning Strikes as a bonus action. And then probably the other one that I'd say, well, maybe 2 more. Black Hole's good on everything. That's pretty given. And then Free Cast. Yeah, this will let you use your Flurry of Blows without using a key point once per long rest. Okay, next we're going to go over the gear. And I've divided it up into acts 1, 2, and 3. So if you're trying to avoid spoilers, it'll be pretty easy to do so. So we'll start with Act 1. And first we're going to go over the consumables that you're going to be using throughout the whole run. The Elixir of Hill Giant Strength. So this is the one you're going to be using pretty much through Acts 1 and 2. Every time you long rest, it's going to increase your strength to 21, which is going to help you through Tavern Brawler. And key here is Auntie Ethel in the Druid Grove or in her shack. She's going to sell 3 of those per long rest. Every time you long rest, you can just go to her, get 3 more. So I would save her fight to the end of Act 1. You get enough of those that'll last you through Acts 1 and 2 easily, especially since it's 1 per long rest. Just don't drink anything else, otherwise it'll override it. So that's what you're going to be doing. Just milk Auntie Ethel, stack up a bunch of these, get through Acts 1 and 2, maybe a couple for Act 3 if you want. But once you get to Act 3, you're going to be wanting using these ones, the Elixir of Cloud Giant Strength. These get your strength set to 27. There's quite a few sources where you're going to get them. I'm not going to read it all, but you guys can feel free to screenshot or whatever if you want. Basically, you'll easily be able to get like over 10 of these. So I would save them for the Act 3 for sure, and save them for like some of the tougher fights, but you don't have to be like super conservative with them. But yeah, strength set to 27, that's going to increase your damage by a lot. Only drink these 2 elixirs. I wouldn't bother with anything else with this build. Okay, so for Act 1, your chest piece, really the only thing I would go for in Act 1 for your chest piece is the Graceful Cloth. This is going to give you an advantage on dexterity checks, and you'll take half falling damage. You'll also increase your dexterity by 2, so that's going to be a big one. That's going to help you with your armor class and all that in the beginning of the game. You also get a +1 to your dexterity saving throws, and your jump distance will increase by like 5 feet. So that runs really well with your bonus actions, where your jumping doesn't cost a action or bonus action. So yeah, for gloves, really the best option here is the Gloves of Cinder and Sizzle. That's going to add 1 to 4 fire damage to your unarmed attacks. So that'll stack up pretty nicely with your punches. And then it'll give you Scorching Ray, which you can use here and there, but it's not really the reason we're going for these. So that's in Act 1, sold by Lady Esther in the Rosamorn Monastery Trail. Kind of around the same area as the Graceful Cloth. Well, actually, it is the same area. It's the same person. So you can get both of those there. Your other option is the Sparkle Hands, which can be found in a wooden chest in the Sunlit Wetlands. This, when you hit with an unarmed attack, you'll get 2 lightning charges, and when imbued with lightning charges, attacks against metal constructs and foes wearing metal armor will gain advantage, so it's going to roll 2 dice and use the higher value. So these are pretty decent, especially if you pair them with some of the other gear in Act 1 I'm going to go over. I'll just go over it now, actually. The Water Sparkler Boots, I would use these with those gloves if you're going to use those. When you're standing in water during combat, it'll become electrified. If the wearer starts their turn on electrified surface, they'll get 3 lightning charges. This is going to help you get more charges. That's found in the Gilded Chest in Minthara's area of the Shattered Sanctum. And then you're going to want to pair that for sure with the Sparks Wall if you're going to use those. This is going to make it so you can't be electrocuted. So standing in the water and it's electrified, it won't electrocute you. And you'll get resistance to lightning damage too, which is actually pretty decent on the Monk. But like I was saying before, my preference is to go for the Gloves of Cinder and Sizzle just for the extra damage on punching. You're trying to burst down foes as quickly as possible. Another pair of gloves I would definitely take and use them occasionally is the Gloves of Thievery. These will give you advantage on sleight of hand checks, so lock picking and pickpocketing. These are amazing when you're trying to steal stuff. Paired with your high dexterity, you're not going to have any issues stealing anything in the game really. So yeah, I would carry these throughout the whole game and just put them on when you're about to steal something or lockpick. And these are bought from Brem in the Zentrum hideout after completing finding the missing shipment in the Zentrum's favor. Okay, now moving on to boots. There's 2 pairs of boots I would focus on in Act 1. The boots of Genial Striding are the ones I would go for if the other pair of boots I go over aren't already taken by another member of your party. This is just going to make it so your movement speed is unimpeded by difficult terrain. It's sold by Blurg in the Myconid colony. So the Disintegrating Nightwalkers are the boots I would try to go for unless it's somebody else is already using them. These will give you Nightwalker, so you can't be enwebbed, entangled, or ensnared, and you can't slip on grease or ice. And then you'll get Misty Step. You can use it once per short rest. These are worn by Nair, can be attained after clearing the cave-in at Grimforge as part of the free True Soul Nair quest line. So either one of those boots are good. As far as amulet goes, this is the amulet you're going to be using the whole game. This or the other variant of it. So this is the Sentient Amulet. You get it in Act 1. It's locked in an adamantine chest in kind of the lava area by the Grimforge. It's near the lava elementals. So what this is going to do, it's going to give you Shatter as a level 2 spell. You're going to be able to talk to the Sentient Amulet, which is the guy that's going to give you a quest to upgrade this later on. You'll get Key Restoration. You can use this ability to restore 2 key points per long rest, which is pretty great, especially later on in the game when you kind of have to watch your key points a little more. The only downside is the high spirits. So you have to succeed a wisdom saving throw when using the amulet's power, or become hysterical, which is the same effect as Tasha's Hideous Laughter for 1 turn. Later on, your wisdom's going to be so high that it doesn't even matter if you don't upgrade this. If you do the quest, it's going to unlock the very rare version, which lets you have Shatter as a level 3 version instead of a level 2 version, and that's once per long rest. And then you'll get key restoration greater. So it's going to grant you a random number of key points equal to your martial arts die, rather than always restoring 2 key points. So for example, a level 9 monk, your martial arts die will be a 1d8. It'll restore 1d8 key points. So you have a chance of getting like up to 8 key points back, which is pretty insane. And then to get that, you just have to complete the Help the Cursed Monk quest, and you have to refuse to take on his madness and fight him and beat him. Not that hard of a fight though. Okay, for rings, there's not a lot of options that are super crazy on the monk actually, but the Ring of Protection is a decent one. So this will give you +1 armor class and +1 to your saving throws. This is rewarded from Maul by completing the quest to steal the sacred idol in the Druid Grove. Then there's the Crusher's Ring. This one's actually pretty decent. This will give you movement speed increased by 3 meters or 10 feet. And this is worn by Crusher in the Goblin Camp, so that's a pretty easy one to get. And then we have the helmets, or helm. Is the haste helm is really the only one I would go for. So this is going to give you momentum for 3 turns at the start of combat. And you'll find this in Act 1 inside the locked chest near the ancient sigil circle waypoint in the Blighted Village. For melee weapons, I didn't list anything here. You're not going to be using melee weapons at all. There's no reason to. Your flurry of blows is significantly more powerful. And then for ranged, there's the Bow of Awareness. What this is going to do is just going to give you +1 to your initiative rolls, help you go earlier on in the turns. This is sold by Royal Moonglow in the Shattered Sanctum. All right, moving on to our Act 2 gear. There's not a whole lot here. First is the chest piece, the Yonti Scale Mail. So this is a medium armor that has an armor class of 15. And normally your medium armor only adds your dexterity modifier capped at +2. So you can only get +2 from your dexterity normally. So that would cap you at like armor class of 17. But this has the trait Exotic Material. So you can add your full dexterity modifier to your armor class. Additionally, this armor doesn't impose disadvantage on stealth ability checks. And then it'll also give you a +1 to initiative rolls so you can move earlier on in the turns. So this is going to be sold by Quartermaster Tally in the last slide in. So you can get it pretty early on. Next for gloves is the Flawed Helldust gloves. Your weapon attacks deal an additional 1d4 fire damage. That doesn't matter because you're not going to be using weapons. Your unarmed attacks deal an additional 1d4 necrotic damage and can possibly inflict bleeding. And then you'll get strength saving throws +1. So this is given to you by Damon in the last light in after you give him an Infernal Iron. So also something you can get pretty early on. And then over here for ring, we have the Shifting Corpus ring. This will give you invisibility and blur. You can catch each one once per long rest. Dropped by Flaming Fist Marcus in the last light in. Again, something you can get pretty early on. Invisibility, you already probably know what that does. Attackers will have disadvantage. Your attacks will have advantage. Your invisibility will break when you attack, cast spells, or interact with items. And then you'll get blur, which is the better part of this ring for the monk. You'll become blurred. Attackers have disadvantage on attack rolls against you for 10 turns. And this is a concentration spell. You're not really using your concentration for anything else at this point. And so if you get hit, there's a chance of your concentration breaking, but with your high dexterity and them having disadvantage on attack rolls already, they're probably not going to hit you. So that's what makes it great on the monk. And then finally, we have the Darkfire short bow. If you're not already using this on somebody else, like a ranged character, preferably you'd put it on a ranged character, but in case you're not, the bonuses to this are really good on the monk. You'll get resistance to fire damage, resistance to cold damage, so you'll take half damage from both of those. And then you'll get haste, which is amazing on the monk, whether somebody else casts it on you or you cast it on yourself. And that's sold by Damon in the last light in. So again, all these things you can get pretty early on in the last light in. All right, finally, we're moving on to our Act 3 gear. And this is where you're gonna get some pretty insane stuff. So first for the chest piece, we have the Vest of Soul Rejuvenation, 10 armor class plus your dexterity modifier. It gives you Defier's Rejuvenation. Whenever you succeed on a saving throw against a spell, you'll regain 1d4 hit points. Greater Kushigo counter. The wearer can use a reaction to make an unarmed strike against any attacker that misses, and then you'll get +2 to your armor class. You'll find this in Act 3. If Roland's dead, it's sold by Lorican's Projection in the Sorcerer's Sundries. If Roland and Lorican are both alive, sold by Roland and Sorcerer's Sundries. If Roland is alive but Lorican is dead, can be pickpocketed from Roland and Razimus Tower. Next is gloves, and there's quite a few elemental gloves you can get kind of early on in Act 3, but there is one pair of gloves later on that are far and away the best gloves you can possibly get. But I'll go over these elemental gloves. So there's the Seraphic Pugilist gloves. These will give you 1d4 radiant damage on your armed attacks, and Guiding Bolt, which is a level 4 spell you can cast once per long rest. So you can find these in the southernmost locked chest at the foot of the beds at the west end of the Open Hand Temple in Rivington. That's pretty early on. The Snow Dust Monastery gloves. These will give you 1d4 cold damage on your unarmed strikes. An Ice Knife is a level 3 spell once per long rest. Sold by the trader in Tharl Dantalon and Dantalon's Dancing Act in Worm Crossing. Also pretty early on in Act 3. Thunderpalm Strikers. These will give you 1d4 thunder damage. And Thunder Wave is a level 3 spell you can cast once per long rest. Sold by Bumpniggle in Anglarion's Cellar. Accessible via a cave entrance in Rivington. Hopefully I said that right. Servitor of the Black Hand gloves. These will add 1d4 force damage to your unarmed attacks. And they'll let you cast Fear as a level 3 spell once per long rest. Found in an opulent chest at the top floor of Worm's Rock Fortress. And then these are the best gloves in the game for this build. Probably the best gloves in the game period. Definitely up there. These will give you Soul Fist. Your unarmed attacks deal an additional 1d10 D10 force damage. And keep in mind, force damage is one of the least resisted damage types. Soul catching. Once per turn on an unarmed hit, you regain 10 hit points. Alternatively, you may forego healing to gain advantage on attack rolls and saving throws until the end of your next turn. And then you'll get +2 constitution up to 20. So that's insane. And you'll get these for Save Hope. So that's a quest in the House of Hope. And for some reason, if you don't want to use the elixirs, this is really your only option. The Gauntlets of Hill Giant Strength. It's going to set your strength to 23, and it'll give you +1 to strength saving throws. Stolen from a pedestal in the archive of the House of Hope. But yeah, you definitely want to be using the elixirs, and you definitely want these gloves. So for boots, the only boots I would go for are the boots of uninhibited Kushigo. You'll get these right away in Act 3. The wearer deals additional damage equal to their wisdom modifier with unarmed strikes. So this is like the main reason we buff our wisdom. And this is dropped by Prelate Lyric as you enter Act 3. That's like the fight right at the beginning of Act 3, so you really can't miss them. And then for cloaks, we have the Cloak of Displacement. This is the only cloak I would consider. Unless you're going Dark Urge, that cloak can be good as well up until this point, but I would use this cloak instead because I think it's better. At the beginning of the wearer's turn, the cloak activates, granting enemies disadvantage on attack rolls that target the wearer. This effect lasts until the wearer takes damage. So this, combined with all of your other stuff, your high dexterity, your high armor class, all that stuff, you're going to be like impossible to hit. Like, this is what makes this class so tanky. It's not even that you have so much HP, it's just you can't be hit at all. This is sold by the trader in Tharl Dantalon and Dantalon's Dancing Axe and Worm Crossing. Super easy to get. You can get it early on in Act 3. All right, and for helmets, the way I see it, you have two options. You have the Horns of the Berserker. This will give you a +2 to attack rolls when attacking creatures that have already taken damage, so that'll help you hit more. And then unarmed and melee attacks will deal an additional 2 necrotic damage as long as you don't have your full health. If you don't deal any damage this turn, you'll take 1d4 necrotic damage at the end of your turn. So that downside's really not that bad. Where to find Act 3, sold by Enthrall Dantalon and Worm's Crossing. You can get that super easily. And then the other option is the Helldusk helmet. This is arguably better, but it's harder to get. This will give you Infernal Sight, so you can see in magical and ordinary distances up to a range of 40 feet, and you cannot be blinded. Magical durability. The wielder has a +2 bonus to saving throws against spells. Attackers can't land critical hits on the wearer. That's the best part of this, and it's amazing. And then you'll get Immolating Gaze. Sear and frighten a target with nothing but your glower. You gain an additional 2d8 fire damage against burning creatures. So this is found in the House of Hope in Act 3 in a vault across from the entrance of the boudoir. I don't think I said that right, but whatever. And then finally, there's the Gaunter Mail. If for some reason you're not using this on somebody else, throw it on this guy. At least somebody in your party should be using this thing. It's kind of ridiculous. When you hit a target with the bow, you'll inflict Guiding Bolt on the target, but you're not going to be doing that usually. You'll get Gaunt Mirror Glowing, so this object shines with a glowing light in a radius of 20 feet. You can toggle that on and off if you want. And then Celestial Haste is what you're going for with this. It's basically haste, but better. So you'll get hastened like normal for 5 turns, which will give you +2 to armor class, advantage on dexterity saving throws. Your movement speed will be doubled, and you get an additional action, except you don't suffer the lethargic condition when it ends like you would normally with hastened. So there's no downside to this one. And that's it for this build video. Let me know down in the comments what you liked or disliked about it. Hit the like button if you did enjoy the video, and follow me on Twitch at Omaha01 if you want to catch some cool streams. See you guys in the next one.